The message came on a cold morning in December. It did not come through normal channels. It did not arrive by email or phone or any technology that humans had built. Instead, it appeared on every screen on Earth at the same moment. Every television, every computer, every phone lit up with the same words in every language known to mankind. Daniel Carter was drinking his morning coffee when it happened. He was standing in his kitchen in Washington, watching the snowfall outside his window. His daughter Sophie was upstairs getting ready for school. His phone buzzed on the counter, and when he picked it up, his blood went cold. The message was simple. It said that humanity had been watched for a very long time. It said that humanity had broken laws that existed long before Earth was born. It said that representatives of something called the Galactic Council would arrive in 72 hours to collect a spokesperson for the human race. This spokesperson would stand trial for the crimes of their entire species. The punishment, if found guilty, would be the complete destruction of humanity. Daniel read the message 3 times. Then he called his sister Katie to come watch Sophie, and he drove through the snow-covered streets to the State Department. By the time he arrived, the building was in chaos. Daniel had worked as a diplomat for 20 years. He had negotiated peace treaties in war zones. He had talked armed men into putting down their weapons. He had sat across tables from dictators and terrorists and walked away alive. But nothing in his career had prepared him for what he saw on the news the morning. The message had caused panic across the world. People were flooding into churches and temples. Stock markets had crashed. Governments were holding emergency meetings. And above it all, the same question hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Who would speak for humanity? Who could possibly defend an entire species? The Secretary of State was a woman named Laura Mitchell. Daniel had known her for 10 years. He had never seen her look afraid until that morning. She stood at the head of a long table, surrounded by generals and advisors, and her hands were shaking. "We have no idea what we are dealing with," she said. "We have no weapons that can fight them. We have no ships that can reach them. We have nothing." A general named Patrick Cole slammed his fist on the table. "Then we fight with what we have. We do not surrender." "Fight with what?" Laura asked. "They crossed the galaxy to deliver a message. We cannot even leave our own solar system. This is not a war we can win." Daniel listened to them argue for an hour. He listened to plans for resistance that would fail. He listened to prayers for mercy that might not come. And as he listened, he thought about Sophie. He thought about her smile when she woke up on Christmas morning. He thought about the way she laughed when he pushed her on the swings at the park. He thought about 7 billion people who had daughters just like her. "I will go," he said. The room went quiet. Every face turned toward him. Laura shook her head. "Daniel, this is not a negotiation. This is a trial. They want to destroy us. Then someone needs to convince them not to." Daniel stood up from his chair. "I have spent my whole life talking to people who wanted to kill each other. I have found common ground with enemies who had none. If there is any chance at all, that words can save us, then I have to try." General Cole looked at him with something like respect. "You would die for this?" Daniel thought about Sophie again. He thought about the world she would grow up in, or the world she would never see. "I would do anything for this." The next 3 days passed like a dream. Daniel was briefed by scientists and historians and politicians. He learned everything humanity knew about the universe, which turned out to be very little. He prepared arguments and gathered evidence. He said goodbye to his daughter without telling her the truth, because how do you tell a 7-year-old that her father might never come home? On the morning of the 3rd day, a ship appeared in the sky above Geneva. It was enormous, larger than any building Daniel had ever seen, and it hung in the air without making a sound. A beam of light shot down from its belly, and touched the ground in front of the United Nations headquarters. Daniel walked toward that light alone. He carried a small briefcase filled with photographs and documents. He wore his best suit, the one he saved for important meetings. His heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his teeth. As he stepped into the light, he heard someone calling his name. He turned and saw Katie running toward him, with Sophie in her arms. His daughter was crying, reaching out for him with both hands. "Daddy! Daddy, do not go." Daniel felt tears burn his eyes. He wanted to run back to her. He wanted to hold her one more time. But he knew that if he did, he might never find the strength to leave. "I love you, sweetheart," he called out. "I love you so much. Be good for Aunt Katie." Then the light took him, and Earth disappeared below. The inside of the ship was nothing like Daniel had imagined. He had expected cold metal and harsh lights. Instead, he found himself in a room that looked almost like a hotel lobby. The walls were soft and curved. The light was warm and gentle. A creature stood waiting for him, and Daniel had to force himself not to scream. It was tall and thin, with skin like gray paper and eyes like black pools of water. It had too many joints in its arms and no nose that Daniel could see. When it spoke, its mouth did not move. The words simply appeared in his mind. "You are the representative of humanity?" Daniel swallowed hard. "I am. You are brave. Or foolish. Perhaps both." The creature turned and began to walk down a long hallway. "Come. The journey to the Nexus will take 14 of your days. You should rest. The Council does not show mercy to those who are unprepared." Daniel followed the creature through the ship, past windows that showed stars streaming by like rain on a windshield. He was leaving behind everyone he loved. He was flying toward a judgment that could end his entire species. And he had nothing but words to save them. But words were all he had ever needed. He would make them enough. The journey through space changed Daniel in ways he did not expect. He spent 14 days aboard the alien ship, watching galaxies pass by like cities seen from a train window. He ate food that tasted like nothing he had ever known. He slept in a bed that adjusted to his body like water. And he talked to the creature that had greeted him, whose name was Keth-Val. Keth-Val was what the Council called a watcher. His job was to observe young species and report on their development. He had been watching Earth for 300 years, since before America was even a country. He knew more about human history than most humans did. "Your species is strange," Keth-Val told Daniel one evening as they sat in a room that looked out at the stars. "You kill each other with great skill. You destroy your own world with your machines. And yet you also create beautiful things. Music, art, stories. We do not understand how both can exist in the same creatures." Daniel thought about this for a long time. "We do not understand it either," he admitted. "We have been fighting ourselves for as long as we have existed. But we have also been trying to be better. Every generation tries to fix the mistakes of the one before. And do they succeed? Sometimes. Not always. But we keep trying." Keth-Val made a sound that might have been a laugh. "That is what makes you dangerous. You never stop." On the 15th day, the ship arrived at the Nexus. Daniel stood at the window and felt his mind struggle to understand what he was seeing. The Nexus was not a planet or a moon. It was a structure built in the empty space between stars. It was so large that Earth could have fit inside it 1,000 times. Lights covered its surface like the lights of a city at night, and ships moved around it like insects around a hive. "This is where the Council meets," Keth-Val said. 17 species, each one older than your recorded history. They have governed this region of the galaxy for longer than humans have walked upright. Daniel felt very small. "And they will decide if my species lives or dies." Yes. The ship docked, and Daniel was led through corridors that seemed to go on forever. He passed creatures that walked on four legs, creatures that floated in bubbles of liquid, creatures that seemed to be made of light itself. None of them looked at him. To them, he was nothing. He was a bug that had crawled out from under a rock. The council chamber was at the heart of the nexus. It was a vast dome of black stone, with 17 platforms arranged in a circle around a small spot of light in the center. Each platform held a different species, and each species watched Daniel with eyes that held no warmth. Kethval stopped at the edge of the chamber. "I cannot go further. You must walk the rest alone." Daniel looked at the circle of light. It seemed very far away. "Any advice?" "Do not lie. They will know. Do not beg. They do not respect weakness. Speak the truth, even if the truth is ugly. That is your only chance." Daniel nodded. He took a deep breath. Then he walked into the council chamber. His footsteps echoed in the silence. Every eye was on him, every sensor, every form of attention that existed in that room. He felt like an ant walking across a kitchen floor, knowing that at any moment a giant foot could come down and crush him. He reached the circle of light and stopped. The warmth of it washed over him, and he realized it was meant to make him feel exposed. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. He was completely alone. A voice spoke, not through the air, but directly into his mind. It came from a creature on the highest platform, a being that looked like a pillar of blue ice. Daniel would later learn its name was Varthkel, and it was the chief arbiter of the council. "You stand before the Galactic Council as the voice of your species. Do you accept this responsibility?" Daniel's mouth was dry. His hands were shaking, but he kept his voice steady. "I do." "Then let the charges be read." For the next 3 hours, Daniel listened as his species was put on trial. The charges were many, and they were serious. Humanity had sent probes into restricted space without permission. They had broadcast radio signals across the galaxy for over a century, disrupting communication systems on 12 different worlds. They had developed nuclear weapons, which were banned across all council space. They had polluted their own planet and shown no ability to govern themselves peacefully. Each charge was supported by evidence. Each charge was explained in detail. And with each charge, Daniel felt the weight of judgment pressing down on him like a physical force. When the reading was finished, Varthkel spoke again. "The penalty for these crimes, if guilt is determined, is the sterilization of your species. Your world will be cleansed of all human life, and your name will be erased from the records of the galaxy. Do you understand?" Daniel felt sick. He thought of Sophie. He thought of Katie. He thought of every person on Earth who was going about their lives right now, not knowing that their existence hung by a thread. "I understand," he said. "How does humanity plead?" The chamber went silent. 17 species waited for his answer. The fate of 7 billion people rested on what he said next. Daniel reached into his briefcase. He pulled out a photograph, one he had chosen very carefully. It showed a man in a white coat standing in a laboratory. The man was smiling, holding up a small vial. "Before I answer," Daniel said, "may I ask the council a question?" A murmur ran through the chamber. Varthkel's form flickered. "That is unusual. But you may ask." Daniel held up the photograph. This man was named Jonas Salk. He created a medicine that saved millions of human children from a terrible disease. When he was asked who owned the patent for his discovery, he said the people owned it. He gave it away for free so that every child on Earth could be protected. He looked around the chamber. "My question is this. In all your thousands of years of watching us, did you ever see that? Did you ever see the good that humans are capable of?" The silence stretched on. Daniel waited. Finally, Varthkel spoke. "We have seen it, but we have also seen the evil. The question before this council is which one defines your species. Daniel put the photograph away. He stood up straight and met the cold gaze of the chief arbiter. Then let me show you, he said. Let me show you who we really are. Daniel reached into his briefcase and pulled out a stack of photographs. His hands were steady now. The fear was still there, but he had pushed it down deep where it could not touch him. He had a job to do, and he would do it. You charge us with developing nuclear weapons, he began. And you were right. We did. On July 16th, 1945, we split the atom and released a power that could destroy cities. 3 weeks later, we used that power to kill over 200,000 people in 2 Japanese cities called Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He held up a photograph. It showed a mushroom cloud rising into the sky, beautiful and terrible at the same time. This is what we did. This is the evil you have seen in us. And I will not pretend it did not happen. I will not make excuses for it. A creature on one of the platforms shifted. It looked like a collection of golden insects moving together as one being. When it spoke, its voice buzzed inside Daniel's head like a swarm of bees. You admit your guilt then? You confess to the crime? I admit that we built the weapons, Daniel said. But I asked the council to consider what we did after we built them. He pulled out another photograph. This one showed 2 men shaking hands. One was American. One was Russian. They were signing a document on a long table. This is a picture from 1987. These 2 leaders signed a treaty to destroy thousands of nuclear weapons. Since that day, we have reduced our nuclear weapons by more than 80%. We looked at what we had created, and we chose to unmake it. Another photograph. This one showed a city rebuilt from ruins, full of lights and life. This is Hiroshima today. The city we destroyed is now home to over 1 million people. We did not leave it as a wasteland. We helped rebuild it. We turned a place of death into a place of life. Vorethkel's icy form flickered. You ask us to forgive mass murder because you cleaned up the mess afterward? No, Daniel said firmly. I ask you to understand that we learn from our mistakes. Every species makes errors. Every civilization has dark chapters in its history. What matters is whether they grow beyond those chapters or stay trapped in them forever. He set down the photographs and looked around the chamber. You have watched us for 300 years. You have seen our wars. You have seen our cruelty. But have you also seen our progress? 300 years ago, most humans lived under kings who had absolute power over their lives. Today, most of us choose our own leaders. 300 years ago, slavery was common across the world. Today, it is banned in every nation. 300 years ago, women could not own property or vote or hold office. Today, they lead countries. The golden insect creature buzzed again. You change slowly. Too slowly. A species that takes 300 years to abandon slavery is not a species that can be trusted with the stars. Daniel felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. How long did your species take? Silence fell over the chamber. The insect creature's swarm tightened into a defensive ball. I do not ask to be rude, Daniel continued. I ask because every species that sits on this council was young once. Every one of you made mistakes when you were learning how to live together. Humanity is young. We are still learning. But we are learning faster than any species in your records. He pulled out a small device from his briefcase. It was a smartphone, the kind that billions of humans carried in their pockets every day. 100 years ago, this would have seemed like magic to my people. Today, a child can use it. In 1 century, we went from riding horses to walking on our moon. In another century, we built machines that could think for themselves. We do not grow slowly. We grow faster than anything you have ever seen. A new voice entered Daniel's mind. It came from a platform where a creature made of flowing silver sat in perfect stillness. Speed is not wisdom. A fire that burns fast destroys everything around it. Yes, Daniel agreed. It can, but a fire can also give warmth and light. It can cook food and forge steel. It depends on how you use it. He held up the smartphone. This device can be used to spread lies and hatred. It can be used to organize violence. But it can also connect a grandmother to her grandchildren across the ocean. It can teach a poor child in a village the same lessons that a rich child learns in the city. It can save lives by calling for help in an emergency. He put the phone away and spread his hands. Humanity is not good or evil. We are both in equal measure. The question you must answer is not whether we have darkness in us. The question is whether we have the strength to overcome that darkness. A long moment passed. Then Voreth Kell spoke. You argue well, human, but arguments are not proof. You say humanity can overcome its nature. How can we know this is true? Daniel reached into his briefcase one last time. He pulled out a flash drive and held it up. This contains everything we are. Every song we have ever written. Every story we have ever told. Every painting, every poem, every discovery. It is the complete record of human culture, from the first cave drawings to the art created yesterday. He walked forward, breaking the boundary of the light circle. Guards moved toward him, but he did not stop. I give this to you freely, not as a bribe, not as a trade. I give it to you because I want you to see us as we truly are. Not the monsters in your reports, not the violence in your records. I want you to see the beauty that we create, even in the darkest times. He held out the flash drive toward Voreth Kell. Look at what we have made. Look at what we dream of becoming. And then tell me that we do not deserve a chance. The chamber was completely silent. Voreth Kell's form pulsed with cold light. Then, slowly, a tendril of ice extended from the platform and took the flash drive from Daniel's hand. The council will review your evidence, Voreth Kell said. You will be taken to quarters where you will wait for our decision. This may take several of your days. Daniel bowed his head. Thank you. Do not thank us yet, human. Your defense was impressive, but it may not be enough to save your kind. Guards came and led Daniel away. As he walked out of the chamber, he looked back one more time at the 17 species, who held the fate of humanity in their hands. He had done everything he could. Now he could only wait. The waiting room was comfortable, but it was still a prison. Daniel had been there for 6 days, counting the hours by the meals that arrived through a slot in the wall. The food was strange but filling. The bed was soft but cold. The silence was the worst part. He had no idea what was happening outside. He spent his time writing letters to Sophie. He wrote about the stars he had seen on the journey. He wrote about the strange creatures and the enormous station. He wrote about how much he loved her and how proud he was to be her father. He did not write about the trial or the charges or the possibility that he might never see her again. Some things a 7-year-old should not have to know. On the 7th day, the door opened. Daniel looked up, expecting to see guards or perhaps Kethval. Instead, a woman walked in. At least, she looked like a woman. She was tall and slender, with silver-white hair that fell past her shoulders and skin that seemed to glow with its own soft light. Her eyes were the strangest part. They were deep purple, and when Daniel looked into them, he felt like he was falling into an endless sky. My name is Saravin, she said. Her voice was gentle, like water flowing over smooth stones. I am the oldest living member of the Galactic Council. May I sit with you? Daniel gestured to the empty chair across from him. Please. Saravin sat down and studied him for a long moment. Daniel felt like she was looking through his skin, past his bones, into the very center of who he was. "Your defense has caused great debate among the council," she said at last. "Some members believe you should be destroyed immediately. Others believe you should be given more time. We have argued for 6 days without reaching a decision." Daniel's heart sank. "So, it is deadlocked?" "For now, yes." Siraven leaned back in her chair. "But I have been given authority to make the final decision if the council cannot agree. Before I make that choice, I wanted to speak with you myself. Ask me anything. I will. But first, I want to tell you a story. It is a story that very few beings in this galaxy know. It is the reason the council exists at all." Daniel leaned forward. "I am listening." Siraven waved her hand, and the air between them shimmered. An image appeared, a galaxy spinning slowly in the darkness. It looked like the pictures Daniel had seen of the Milky Way, but somehow older, more tired. 300,000 years ago, Siraven began, a species much like yours lived in a galaxy far from here. They called themselves the Architects. They were brilliant and curious and driven by a hunger to understand everything around them. They developed technology faster than any species before or since. In the span of a few thousand years, they went from simple tools to ships that could cross between stars. The image changed. Now it showed cities rising from barren worlds, bridges of light connecting planets, ships moving in great fleets across the void. They built an empire that spanned half their galaxy. They were not cruel rulers. They brought knowledge and prosperity to every world they touched. For a time, they were the greatest civilization that had ever existed. Daniel watched the images with wonder. What happened to them? Siraven's face grew sad. They became afraid. The image shifted again. Now it showed a dark shape moving through space, something that seemed to drink in the light around it. They discovered that the universe was not empty. There were other powers out there, older and stranger than anything they had imagined. Powers that did not think or feel the way living creatures did. The Architects became convinced that these powers would eventually come for them. So they decided to strike first. The dark shape exploded, and Daniel saw what was inside it. It was a weapon, something so terrible that his mind struggled to accept it. They built a device that could kill stars. They called it the Silence. With it, they could destroy entire solar systems in an instant. They believed it would protect them from any threat, no matter how powerful. Saravin's voice grew heavy. But fear is a poison, Daniel. It grows in the heart until it consumes everything else. The Architects began to see threats everywhere. In other species. In each other. They turned the Silence against anyone they believed might one day become a danger. The image showed stars going dark, one after another. Worlds burning. Civilizations screaming into the void as death came for them. They killed billions. Then trillions. They destroyed half their galaxy before the other species could unite against them. By the time the war ended, the Architects were gone. Not defeated, erased. Their worlds were reduced to dust. Their history was wiped from every record. Even their name was almost forgotten. The image faded, and Saraven met Daniel's eyes. The council was formed by the survivors of that war. We came together with one purpose, to make sure that nothing like the Architects could ever rise again. We watch young species. We guide them when we can. And when we see the signs of what the Architects became, we act. Daniel understood now. You think we are like them? We see the same patterns, Saraven admitted. The same hunger for knowledge. The same speed of development. The same capacity for violence. She paused. And the same fear. We are not the Architects. Perhaps not. But can you be certain? Can you promise me that humanity will never build a weapon like the Silence? Can you swear that fear will never drive your species to destroy others before they destroy you? Daniel was silent for a long moment. He thought about human history. He thought about the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He thought about the Cold War, when two nations had pointed enough weapons at each other to destroy the world many times over. "No," he said finally. "I cannot promise that. Humans are capable of great evil. We have proven that again and again." Seravin nodded slowly. "Then why should we let you live?" Daniel looked into her ancient eyes. He saw the weight of 300,000 years in them. He saw the memory of burning galaxies and screaming worlds. He saw the terrible responsibility of choosing who lived and who died. "Because we are also capable of something the architects never had," he said quietly. "And what is that?" "The ability to change." Daniel stood up and walked to the small window that looked out at the stars. The architects were afraid, and their fear made them monsters. But humanity has faced that same fear many times. We have stood at the edge of destruction and looked into the abyss. He turned back to face her. And every time we have stepped back. Not because we are wise. Not because we are good. But because somewhere inside us, there is a voice that says no. A voice that chooses hope over fear, love over hatred, life over death. Seravin rose from her chair. "That is a beautiful speech. But speeches do not change the nature of a species." "No," Daniel agreed. "But choices do. And humanity has been making the right choices, slowly, painfully, for thousands of years. We are not where we need to be, but we are moving in the right direction. All we need is time." Seravin studied him for a long moment. Then she walked to the door. "Come with me," she said. "The council has made its decision." Daniel felt his heart stop. "Already? I have cast the deciding vote." She looked back at him, and for the first time, he saw something like warmth in her eyes. "Come, Daniel Carter. Let us see what future awaits your species." Daniel walked beside Seravin through the endless corridors of the Nexus. His legs felt weak. His heart was beating so hard, he could hear it in his ears. In a few minutes, he would learn whether humanity would survive or die. 7 billion lives hung in the balance, and there was nothing more he could do. The council chamber seemed larger than before. The 17 platforms loomed above him like mountains, and the faces of the alien judges were impossible to read. Daniel walked to the circle of light at the center of the floor and stood alone, just as he had done before. Vo, our aide to Kel's icy form, pulsed with cold light. "Daniel Carter, representative of humanity. You stand before us to receive the judgment of the Galactic Council." Daniel bowed his head. "I am ready. The Council has debated your case for 7 days. We have reviewed your evidence. We have listened to your arguments. We have considered the history of your species and the potential of your future." Voreth Kel paused. The vote was close. 9 in favor, 8 against. Daniel held his breath. The Galactic Council has decided to grant humanity provisional membership in the community of spacefaring civilizations. The words hit Daniel like a wave. His knees buckled, and he had to catch himself before he fell. Relief flooded through him, so powerful that tears sprang to his eyes. Humanity would live. Sophie would grow up. The world would go on. However, Voreth Kel continued, and Daniel's relief turned to ice. This mercy comes with conditions. Of course. Nothing was free. Nothing was simple. Humanity will be placed under supervision for a period of 1,000 years. During this time, you will be monitored constantly. Your technology will be limited. Your expansion into space will be controlled. Any violation of Council law, any sign that you are becoming a threat to other species, will result in immediate review of your status. Daniel nodded. "I understand. Furthermore, you will be required to provide regular reports on your progress. You will send representatives to the Council every 10 years to demonstrate that your species is developing in a positive direction. Failure to show improvement will be considered evidence of failure. We will do everything you ask. Vorethkel's form flickered. Do not make promises you cannot keep, human. Your species has a long history of breaking its word. Daniel straightened his shoulders and looked up at the Chief Arbiter. Then watch us. Watch every step we take. See for yourself whether we are worthy of the chance you have given us. A murmur ran through the council. Daniel felt the weight of 17 species studying him, judging him, trying to understand what kind of creature he was. The golden insect swarm spoke. You are bold, human. Perhaps too bold. I am honest, Daniel replied. I have not lied to you once since I arrived. I will not start now. Humanity is not perfect. We will make mistakes. We will disappoint you sometimes. But we will also surprise you. We will show you things you have never seen before. We will prove that we deserve to stand among you. The silver creature that had spoken before leaned forward. And if you fail, if you become what we fear, Daniel met its gaze without flinching. Then you will do what you must. But I do not believe it will come to that. I believe in my people. I believe in what we can become. Silence fell over the chamber. Then Seraphine stepped forward from the shadows where she had been watching. The human speaks true, she said. I have looked into his heart. I have seen his species through his eyes. They are dangerous, yes, but they are also remarkable. They carry within them a spark that I have not seen in 300,000 years. She turned to face the council. I voted to spare them because I believe they can be more than what they are. I voted to spare them because I remember what the architects might have been if someone had reached out to them before fear consumed their hearts. Vorethkel's form pulsed. You take responsibility for this decision, Seraphine? I do, then so be it. The Chief Arbiter turned back to Daniel. The judgment is final. Humanity will be given its chance. What you do with that chance is up to you. Daniel bowed deeply. Thank you. Thank you all. Do not thank us, human. Prove to us that our mercy was not a mistake. The reckoning begins here. What happens next will determine the fate of your species for all time. 3 weeks later, Daniel's ship dropped out of the stars above Earth. He stood at the window and watched his home planet grow larger and larger until it filled his entire view. The blue of the oceans, the green and brown of the continents, the white swirls of clouds drifting across the Dures, the surface. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. The landing was broadcast to every screen on the planet, just as the original message had been. Billions of people watched as the alien ship touched down in Geneva, in the same spot where Daniel had been taken. They watched as the doors opened. They watched as a single man walked out into the sunlight. Daniel stood there for a moment, breathing air that smelled like home. Then he saw them running toward him. Katie, with tears streaming down her face, and Sophie, her little legs pumping as fast as they could carry her. He fell to his knees and caught his daughter in his arms. He held her so tight that he thought he might never let go. Daddy, Sophie cried. You came back. You came back. I told you I would, sweetheart. I told you. Katie reached them and wrapped her arms around both of them. For a long moment, they just held each other, crying and laughing at the same time. When Daniel finally looked up, he saw cameras pointing at him from every direction. Reporters were shouting questions. Soldiers stood in formation, waiting for orders. The whole world was watching, waiting to hear what had happened. Daniel stood up slowly. He lifted Sophie into his arms and turned to face the cameras. I have a message for every person on Earth, he said. We have been given a gift today, a chance that no species in the history of the galaxy has ever received. We have been invited to join a community older and wiser than anything we ever imagined. He paused, looking into the lenses that carried his words to billions of ears. But this gift comes with a price. We must prove ourselves worthy of it. We must show the universe that humanity is more than its worst moments. We must become the best version of ourselves, not someday, but now. Starting today. He held Sophie a little tighter. The reckoning has begun, and I believe, with all my heart, that we are ready for it. Above him, the stars burned with ancient light. And somewhere out there, 17 civilizations were watching to see what humanity would do next on. The future was waiting, and it had never looked brighter.